Most people don't know this, but before our current business, it looks nothing like it does now. We used to flip liquidation clothes, hit thrift stores every single week, dig through piles of inventory, hoping something would sell. We actually thought that was gonna be our future, but it collapsed and it hurt. We lost time, money, and confidence. But now looking back, that failure was the best thing that ever happened to us. If Forma had worked, BTD wouldn't exist. So yeah, we're thankful it failed. Let me show you the business that almost broke us. Our first business taught us a lot of experience. I think that's what opened the doors for just business in general.
We didn't know what we were doing because really the first you could call legitimate business where we had an LC was the one where we sold liquidated clothing, but at the same time just accessories. We started selling electronics and anything that we could get our hands on when they had a discount and sell it for a higher price. We got in so much debt, so we were getting loans to pay off loans, and so that definitely comes to mind.
In that business, we were able to dip our toes in the water. Technically, we were just thrown in the deep end of the pool, deep end of the ocean, and we just learned how to swim. We didn't have experience, we didn't have any know-how, we didn't have any connections, we didn't have money, and we just learned everything there. And yeah, I think that's why we're also grateful for that first business.
Definitely the moment that we knew that the business wasn't gonna work out was when we had that cabbage line of credit. In order to make the monthly payment that we needed for it, we needed to take out another loan from cabbage. So we had a cabbage loan, we needed to make a payment. So in order to make the payment, we took out another loan to cover that payment. And so at that point, it's unsustainable. So at that point, the economics of the business weren't making sense. We had too much inventory. We were spending $2,700 a month on the warehouse. And so at that point, the numbers made absolutely no sense for it to continue. And so it was really at that moment that we knew it's not gonna work out. And one of the things that we always talk about it with each other is the fact that we were lucky that we felt at that point. Because the debt was what, $80,000? The monthly payments, I remember we did the math, including all the debts, we were paying $3,000 to $4,000 a month in just payments. So I'm kind of grateful that it happened at that point, because if, for example, let's say we mess up now, where the commitments, the rent alone is $10,000 a month. Actually, it's more, it's like 11,000 something. The payroll is what, $60,000 to $7,000, $70,000 a month in payroll. If we were to mess up now, we were to make a bad buying decision or business decision, it would really mess us up to where it doesn't really, even if we got like high corporate jobs, we wouldn't be able to pay those commitments off or pay those. And so the fact that we failed at a small scale, learned that not to over leverage ourselves, I'm really grateful for that and really appreciative that that happened at that point, because we could get out of that, and we did get out of it.
Not just that, it also allowed us to go into a different industry. So before it was more of the clothing industry, which is pretty cool, but now we're in the automotive industry. We get to work with a lot of cars. We grew to love cars, ended up getting Teslas, Model S's. We got a Porsche Taycan at one point, and now we have Hummers. So we get to work more hands-on, and if we stuck with the first business, we wouldn't be able to have this. And on top of that, I know that first business was lower barrier to entry. If you have a business or an industry that has low barrier to entry, there's going to be a lot of competition down the line. So
yeah, and the thing is that you can make money, but in terms of scalability, I don't think it's very scalable. And if you are able to scale it, I think you either need a lot of money or a lot of experience, or just you need something that would really set yourself apart, and something that we didn't have. And so it is low barrier to entry. But I think even if let's say we were to go ahead and do that, we will make enough money and income for individuals. But as to like hire a team and all that, probably not.
Also because that business model was very capital intensive. It was, I think, a third of our revenue was just straight to inventory. Failing at the first business, the biggest win is that now we're more careful with the finances. Now we're more diligent. We look at the numbers where before is, okay, we just kind of winged it. Yes, we kept track of the numbers, but it wasn't like how we're keeping track of it today. I know that before, if we needed something, we're like, all right, we're going to get it and we'll figure it out. If we don't have enough money, then we're going to get a loan. And so now it's a little bit different. Now we're more careful on what we spend. Now we track more, and now we're more on the reserve side, which the bank account, I mean, it's there for a reason. So it's a safety net. You're never going to be ready for business. We weren't ready for our first business, and we weren't ready for our second business. Our second business, we started in 2019, and it was only until I think after 2022, 2023 that we really grasped business. And so in our first business, I'm not surprised why we failed. It was more of just, well, yes, we'll try business. We'll try, we're still going to be learning the ins and outs. We're still going to be taking courses. We're still going to be looking at business videos, looking at other businesses. But it was more of, we'll see what happens from here. And so, I'm not surprised why we failed that business.
Yeah, definitely. I'm very glad that we ended up in the automotive business, because I know that that's something that I think we both grew a liking to. Cars, vehicles, and just everything automotive. And I know in the previous business of the flipping, it was more of what just came about, whether it be electronics, whether it be clothing, whether it be accessories. And it's kind of hard to build a passion for those. I mean, a passion for the business, but a passion for the product and what it is that we sell, it was a little bit hard. And the majority of our stuff that we sold back then was the clothing. Actually, I've never really bought any of my clothes. It's honestly, I think it's always been my mom. Oh, this one actually I did buy. It was Amazon. It was $17. But my mom has always bought me the same type of shoes, the black Adidas, black shoes, always jackets, sweaters. And so I really grew liking to it. And the fact that it's also, to an extent, it does bring some credibility when you do have a nice car. I think it just fit in perfect I'm happy.
What were some of the best lessons you guys learned?
Not to over leverage us. At least over leverage us in something that we don't know in what it is that we're doing. So for example, in the last business, we over leveraged ourselves with inventory that we didn't know was gonna sell.
One of the things that I learned the most that still stuck with me, is the bad taste in our mouth for failing. Yes, I'm grateful that we failed because we learned a lot of lessons, but now going into this round, it's okay, if we see that we're struggling, like in 2022 we were struggling with this business, how much more do we have to work to make it work? How many hours do we have to come here? Do we have to come here Saturdays? Do we have to come here Sundays? Yes, we have responsibilities at home, but we're now going to make it work, because we're not going to go back to the first business and failing it, because now we have a lot more responsibilities. We have a warehouse. We have people working here that rely on us. Yes, they could go somewhere else, but essentially they're also in a way relying on us, in the sense that, yes, we're the people that are driving the company forward. We have the vision. We have the means to execute. And so now there's a lot more responsibility, so there's no going back. Looking back at the first business to our current business, it wasn't planned. It was more of something that just fell in our lap. And it happened to be how we started our first business, which it was through you.
Yeah, and so definitely, it like how you said, it was a transition. It wasn't anything that, okay, we're going to do our research and that's what we're going to do because it makes sense. In fact, that once we knew our business ended, we were going to get jobs, and we knew that we were going to get off of it, and it was going to take us several years to get out of the debt. But it just happened way before. I think we had planned that 2018 was when we had that conversation. But then we were in 2020, 2019, 2020, 2021, we're probably going to be still paying off debt. In 2020, at that point, we had already built this business to 7 figures and retired my mom. And so it happened unexpectedly, and so it wasn't planned, and so it wasn't like any risk per se that we took, because I know we started off small and we slowly grew from there.
Yeah, I think it was also by luck, because if we would have been in other jobs, we probably would have started something else. Yeah, because we already had the experience. I remember I had the makeup job. I was working at a company that sold makeup. Oh, kind of like how we were doing it with. They were selling already established makeup brands, and then they had their own lineup. And I was telling you, okay, maybe we could do this with the makeup. I know some of the suppliers now. And so we could have gone into makeup.
Yeah.
What's the biggest difference between you guys as a business owner now versus then?
The experience that we have now. Because even let's say in the now, what we know, if we went back to that business model, I know we would have made it a lot more successful. With the tools that we have now, with the experience, we would have made it work. That's the thing. We would have made it work. So I think overall, it's just the experience. The experience is the biggest difference that we have from now to back then. And so I would say that that's the biggest one. Yeah, well, I know that failing sucks, and it sucks a lot, because the embarrassment that, like our business, like family, oh, your little business is like, it's not working, or it didn't work. Oh, how sad. Like, you should get a job, you should go back to school. That it sucks. The fact that we were in debt, the fact that we're paying money to the debt, the fact that we had no money for anything else other than the debt, it sucks. but you learn a lot. We learned a lot because if you look at that after that failure, moving forward, there was really almost nothing but successes after that because we learned from our experience and we actually applied those lessons that we learned, and it just from there we just shot and we just got lucky in a good boat. And even then we would have been in another industry, same story. We learned our experience and it just went up from there. So it sucks to fail, but you learn a lot from it. In fact, I feel like a failure is a prerequisite in order to succeed. There's very few like Jeff Bezos and maybe a few, but if you look at all the business, all the successful entrepreneurs, they've had several failures before the successes, and so definitely it sucks, but it's a very good learning lessons, and you should only be excited from there because only good things could come from failures.
You are gonna have failures, and yes, we failed our first business, but we didn't fail business. There, even till now, we have some products that they fail. Doesn't mean that we're just gonna quit business. Doesn't mean that we're gonna quit the company. We're gonna have services. We're gonna have ideas. We're gonna have product launches that are gonna fail, but it's not necessarily a failure. It's just a learning experience. So yes, you're gonna fail, but use that as an experience.